As we've discussed this hour, the big three automakers, Ford, General Motors and Stellantis, are getting a one-month exemption from the president's tariffs. But other businesses haven't been as lucky. The owner of a steel company in Canada told Ed O'Keefe that just the threat of tariffs impacted his business, and it's only gotten worse since they've been implemented. And Ed joins us now from Toronto, across on the northern side of the border. Ed, which companies are still seeing an impact from the active tariffs? Because it's a great point that you discovered in that the threat has its own ripple effect. So what are we seeing?
Sure. Yeah, and we'll hear from him in a moment. But virtually every other industry that does business on either side of the border is having some kind of an issue now because of this tariff war, Errol. Whether it's lumber, whether it's steel, whether it's agriculture, whether it's the retail industry, food, all of it in one way or another now dealing with tariffs. And to give you one example of the kind of effect that could be felt in the United States in the coming months, because we're getting closer to spring break season. And if you've ever spent time down in Arizona or Florida in March, April, you are undoubtedly going to run into Canadian tourists, because about 20.4 million of them visited the United States in 2024, generating about $20.5 billion in revenue for states and for various destinations across the continental United States. An even 10% reduction in visits by Canadians would mean $2.1 billion in lost revenue, as many as 114,000 American jobs potentially affected by that. And the reason I bring that up is there has been this widespread push now across this country to buy Canadian or to focus on domestic spending instead of spending into the United States in protest for tariffs that this country really increasingly believes was entirely unnecessary and somewhat just rooted in no good reason at all.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau earlier this week, in which he said, Canadians, yeah, we're passive, we're friendly, but don't mess with us. I'm paraphrasing. And so to see Canadians put signs in their grocery stores on the shelves saying, buy Canadian, really is remarkable. It seems like that's just one aspect of this overall Canadian response in fighting back in their own way to what for them is a higher cost of trade.
Yes, and so that steel company that we visited yesterday, a place called Conquest Steel, just outside Toronto, Rahim Malou is the owner and operator of it, and he described to us some of the concerns that they have. Take a listen.
The threat of the tariffs was looming closer. We started experiencing outright cancellations from our American distributors. It came as a shock to everyone. I think it's also important to mention that other than hockey, I don't think Canadians have any animosity or ill will to the American people.
So he emphasized that this isn't about the American people, but really just animosity towards President Trump for picking this fight. And really notable that in his case, at least, he had American customers, American suppliers telling him right after the elections in November, got to halt those orders because the tariffs are coming and I can't necessarily afford to be buying Canadian steel. And where does his product end up? Errol, if you're someone who does gardening or if you have window wells around your basement windows, it's that kind of product that he's selling. So this is something that could affect people as they head to a Home Depot or a Lowe's this weekend to try to start doing spring cleaning and getting ready for the new season, or for others who are doing some modest work that involves smaller pieces of steel around your house or around your garden. It's a good example of how integrated the U.S. and Canadian economies really are.
Yeah, as you said at the top, it touches every aspect of U.S. life in some way. It's more than maple syrup. Ed O'Keefe in Toronto, thanks so much.